have a guest lecturer from the Shinnecock Nation who's going to speak about Algonquin burial practices, the cultural attributes of the spiritual significance of preparation of the deceased, the community involvement, all part of somewhat similar throughout all our conference. So without further ado, Josephine Smith is a cultural educator with the Shinnecock Nation, and she and you're very gathered here today.
Thank you, Nina. Good afternoon. Josephine Smith, Shinnecock Negotiation, Shinnecock Method. Machik Notogam. I just said hello. Good afternoon. My name is Josephine Smith. I am from Shinnecock. I live on Shinnecock, and Turtle is my clan. I am happy to have been invited to come here today. Mr. Walker had invited me to be a part of this. I haven't seen what she's got up there, so I am retired. I'm no longer teaching. I'm not teaching as much as I used to. I just recently retired about a year ago for medical reasons as the director of the Shinnecock Nation Cultural Resources Department. Prior to that, I had worked in the Cultural Enrichment program, which I had enlarged it to the Current Department. And I'm a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, sister, auntie. So I come with experience from the heart. I am not an anthropologist. I am not an archaeologist. I only went to college for a couple of months. So my passion, though, has always been about learning about our people, about learning our cultural ways, about learning what was taken from us with the colonization of our people, what was taken away from us with our lands, with our sacred places, with our language. And so it's always been my passion and my goal to learn as much as I can about those things that were taken and to bring that back, to help revive that. With the work that I've done over the years, we were able to start a language revitalization program with other tribal members who have been very passionate about learning the language, bringing it back into use, because our language never really left us. You know, you say succotash, you say moccasin, you say all of these different words that are Shinnecock words. These are Algonquin words. And so our language has never left us, and it's part of our everyday language. But people don't understand that and realize that. They don't understand that the places that we live aren't just a name, but there's a meaning behind that name. There's a reason for those place names. And there is so much that we hold inside of us, and so much memory that is inside of us through the generations. And we're at a point that we are starting to share that and starting to bring that back, because through our prayers, through our contacts, that through our teachings, we want to bring that back to our children, to our grandchildren, to our great-grandchildren, so that those from whom couldn't teach us those things, for those that it was taken away from them to use, that we are now awakening those things. So this Great Awakening, that time of Great Awakening, had a different meaning than it does today, because I think today the Great Awakening is the awakening of who we are inside of us, of all those generations before us, all those ancestors who had to suppress their teachings, had to suppress their ceremonial ways, had to suppress their language. And so today we are happy to be able to teach that, to know that my grandchildren can understand the language, to know that my 7-month-old grandchild to live with me with his parents and older sister, that we can speak to him in the language and he knows that we're talking about. That he knows to say nokomis. He doesn't have to say gram or grand, or he knows who his nopi is, who his nokomis is. He knows what these different things are. He knows when we say to just see you later instead of saying goodbye. It's not goodbye. See you later. See you tomorrow. So we can say these things in our language. So this is what that awakening is about. It's about awakening what is inside of us, awakening that language, awakening those spirits within us and those ways. We were always taught, one thing my mom always said, it's not the dead you have to be afraid of, it's the living. But she always would say that, we were never afraid to go down to our cemetery. I know some people feel it's forbidden. We were never afraid to go. We were never afraid to go and speak to the relatives. There's spirits all around us. And I think that some people have different ideas about death, that some people feel that death is something to fear, but we were never taught to fear death. We were taught that our spirits go, our souls go back to the southwest, that is where that gathering places, that happy hunting ground, we were always told. We go to the happy hunting ground. That's not a place that sounds like it's something to be fearful of, but that's a place of joy. That's a place where your ancestors are. That's a place where your loved ones are. And so that's something that we can look forward to, not be afraid of. Over time, after the colonists and you had your anthropologists come in, especially in the early 1900s, they were digging up so many graves, trying to find out about these people who were already here. You had the big dig that Harrington and different ones from different museums did in the early 1900s. You had people that worked for the anthropologists and digging up what were they finding. They were finding not just an artifact, but they were finding our people. They were finding our ancestors. We still are fighting this today of so many sites being uncovered. And so we have to be respectful and honor our people. We have to honor the ways that they were taught. And one thing with the anthropologists, it's unfortunate, very maddening that they did do all of these digs, the grave diggers. But through that, we have found out some things. Maybe some things weren't supposed to be found out, of how our people were buried. How we were laid or sat up. We weren't laid prone. There are ways that show how the position that people were buried in, the things that they were buried with, things to take with them that would be there for that afterlife, whether it was a bowl of food, their favorite bowl, their favorite cooking kettle, their favorite pipe, their animals, their favorite clothing, their favorite jewelry, their garments. These are things that have been uncovered in these graves. But was it really necessary for that to happen? How many people would want to go now and open up your great-great-grandparents' coffins, to go open to your cemeteries and open them up and see. I don't think too many people would want that to happen to their relatives. Yeah. And so, yes, we have learned from some of these excavations, these anthropologic, their education that they got. But I don't know that it was all worth that. What I do know is that things that they have uncovered still connect back to how things are done even today. That we still, when our people pass on, when they cross over, we do know that we still fill their coffins or the baskets that they are placed in or the hides that they are wrapped in or the blankets that they are wrapped in. We will still put in those things, gifts to send them to the next world. We will have feasts of the foods that they like to eat. We will gather as family, community to do these things, to honor the person who has passed on. And so those are things I think are some of the most important things for us, is to learn how to honor someone, not just of how they were laid out, but it's that honoring, trying to honor that person when their time is coming, when it's time for them to transition. And most people know, many people know when it's time, especially those who have lived a long life. They start knowing when their time is coming. And things happen. I remember when my grandma was passing, her hair started getting darker. Other relatives, their hair starts to go back. We have the gray and white hair, but then it starts getting darker again. These are things that we notice. They'll start talking about relatives who have gone on. They'll talk about seeing, I saw Mama sitting at the table. Mama came to visit me. Sister was there. They'll call out their name sometime. If they're in a state where they're not of full awareness, they might call out the name of the relative or loved one because they're seeing them. Those spirits, those other souls are coming for them to help to take them into that next life, to that next world. And it's a journey. It's a journey that they go on. It may take weeks before that transition happens. It may take days. We try to bury our people within a certain amount of time. Some people bury right away. Of other tribes, they try to bury right away. Some people try to bury within, say, 4 days. 4 being a sacred number to our people. 4 instead being a sacred number. And so these are things that I have seen, that I have observed. I was a hospice care aide, and my first patient was my best friend's mother. But I had been there with my mother. I had been there with my aunts and uncles to see them when it was their time to transition. And it's a time, yes, of sadness, but it's also a time where family comes together. It's a time where loved ones can come into the room, say their goodbyes, tell a story, talk about old times. I remember when, even if that person on their deathbed is not fully aware, that they are still hearing this of what others are talking to them. You must sing songs to them or play their favorite music. Try to get as many people who are there, all of the relatives, all of the children or grandchildren. If they can't gather, you get them on the phone. Even if that person isn't responding, you put the phone to them so they can hear that loved one speak to them. Hear that loved one say, I love you. Hear that loved one say, it's okay. You can go now. You've spent your time here with us. You've taught us well. And now it's time for you to go on and for you to go back to that time of happiness and meeting your relatives, meeting your other loved ones, be it your child that has gone before you or your spouse that has gone before you, your parents, your siblings. It's okay to let go. And I think that's one of the very important things that as a Shinnecock woman who has learned these things from family, from being there, from being in the room, I think that is what is one of the most important things about our burial ways, our funerary ways, is to have that love in the room for that person and to let them know how much they are loved. No matter what had happened before, it's okay. It's okay, but whatever happens, please forgive me on this side. I forgive you as you're going over to the other side if there was bad, things that weren't so pleasant in life that happened, and we all go through that. So it's important to have this time to say goodbye, to say those goodbyes, to honor that person in that way. Some of the things we may do, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but family comes together when we're preparing for that person's transition. Family will come and start getting it if it happens that, we know that person's going to transition soon, if that person was homesick, say. People come together and help start preparing the home to take in other visitors. Sometimes we let our homes get a little messy or whatever. So family members, people come, the women especially, the women come and they start, they'll clean up, put the dishes away or whatever. Prepare food for the family that's there. They're waiting, having to do this. The men will come and take care of the yard work and help prepare the sites. Now, because we've had contact for so long, we do things that are more of the, I guess what people would call nowadays norm. Some people use schedule homes. But we also bring our relatives home. Some people I remember when my grandmother had passed, and she was born in the end of the 1800s and passed in 1870s. And I remember when she passed that we brought her home. Her coffin laid in the living room of the home. And when it was time for our mother to pass, my sister just brought we decided as a family, let's bring Mama home. And so we did. We had her home. She transitioned that home. Family was there. Our family from away were there. As I said before about playing music, singing the songs in a different language. We have one sister, her children, his father is from the Hoopa Reservation, Hoopa Nation out in Northern California. And so they sang songs in Hupa. My sons know songs in Cheyenne and Lakota. They sang those songs to her. My mother was a Christian woman, and we had a CD of a Oneida woman and her children that sing Christian hymns in their language, and we played that when she was transitioning. And she had no problem with combining the cultural ways or the spiritual or religious ways, because it was about trying to live a good life, be good to people. That was her thing. And saying, I tried my best. I tried my best. So these things, these words that our relatives say to us, take care of each other. These are the things that are so important for having that time when that time is coming, bringing people together. We had a young man in our community, one of our relatives, who had been at a funeral service with someone from a tribe up in Massachusetts. And they had a fire going outside during that time after the person had passed, before they were buried. So for 4 days they had that fire go. And the people there had learned that from someone from, I believe he was from Wisconsin area. And the people from Wampanoag had learned about that. So our younger cousin came to us and he said, can we build a fire here for Cousin Eve? And so, yes. And so we had that fire pit going for those 4 days. And people could come, people would visit. They would sing, people would bring food. That's what, to me, one of the greatest things about our funerary ways is that coming together as a people. And that was something that some of the elders talked about. We always came together. We might fight like cats and dogs like you do in families sometimes, But there's certain times when the people come together and they remember. And they have those good times. They have those times to help that person transition and to help the family. It helps the family transition. It helps the community to transition. When the ones who are older come and tell stories that they remember of that person when they were younger, that helps the family to know these things that we may never have been told about. So this is what, again, these are the things that to me are some of the most important things. It's that showing of caring. It's that honoring. It's that feasting. It's that celebrating. And people nowadays don't just say we're having a funeral. No, they say we're having a celebration of life. You see that funeral homes and churches and all. But I think as the Shinnecock people, we truly have those celebrations of life. And we combine. See, that might be somebody. Is it coming to say? We remember these things. We're happy. We see things. We might see a cardinal. Now, cardinal, female cardinal, you see them flying outside. Oh, hi, Mama, hi, brother. You speak to them because, they've come back to visit us. As their spirit's coming back in the form of that bird, that cardinal is that messenger bird. Just like our eagles, they take our prayers, because they're the highest flying, so they take our prayers to Creator. But then you have those other messengers who come back and visit. So these are some of the things. I'll open it up. Anyone has questions or comments?
So, many cultures stay close to the burial grounds of their ancestors. It's very traditional not to leave. So, does that ring true with the Shis, Cops, and Matockets, our local Native Americans?
Those people, we have our own cemetery at Shinnecock. And so, we can go and visit. We can go up these flowers. We can go and offer a spirit plate, which is a plate of food that is put down. You just go and you sit and you talk to them. If you're not taking anything. Our cemetery is right on, for those of you that don't know, Shinnecock, where we live now, is a peninsula. And so our cemetery is on our water, and it faces the southwest. And, so we go down there. We go and be close. And sometimes our relatives are not buried nearby, They may be buried where their spouse was buried. They may have been a veteran, so they're not buried on the territory. But we still go, and visit. Or sometimes I'll go even if I'm not going to that cemetery, but I know I'm up in that area. I'll say something. I'll say a word of greeting to the spirit of that person who is there, that loved one that is there. So we don't always have to be right next to our loved ones to always talk to them and honor them. You can talk to them at any time and remember them at any time. You can honor them at any time. You can put food out for them at any time. When we have our family gatherings today, we'll put out that plate of food and we'll thank our mother or other relatives who reminded us of these ways of being together, of coming together as a family, and the importance of coming together as a family. So, whether they're right there or not, they're still always in here. And we can still always have that communication with them.
Yeah. Well, I also wonder how it feels to be removed from your traditional land. Taken away, sent away, how hard that must be.
It's very hard. I mean, we have been on our ancestral lands for thousands of years. But to be pushed on a small area of our ancestral lands is very difficult for us. Because as our population grows, we're getting squished more and more together. The houses aren't spaced out as much. So you're not, we don't have that, all those freedoms, I guess, that we used to have. We don't have that space. We don't have that open space, just like Long Island. Look at how Long Island doesn't have the open space like it used to have. So those who are, quote, newcomers, who are seeing that, who are feeling that squeeze, can you imagine how we feel? not just where we're at right now, but what has happened all around us, and knowing that our lands, knowing that our burial areas are being disturbed, have been disturbed, or that we have to fight so that they are no longer disturbed. Now there are new rules, but how many people are really abiding by that? How many developers in the Hamptons or in Montauk are really going to say if they have uncovered a gravesite? Yeah. No.
You talk a little bit about the significance of Montauk to the Shinnecock and Montauk people. So, what was the everyday life like here, going back generations and generations?
That I can't really say. I know that, we had, the communication has always been there. Are we related? Probably, yes. But then you have, just like other families move away. But with us, it's been this, because we roamed all of Long Island, right? We traveled. You've heard of Stephen Talcott's, the ones who traveled from Montauk into New York. We've had stories of our people who would travel and would go to Pennsylvania walking, go to Pennsylvania, go to the Midwest. And so there's always been this intertribal connection, whether it was through blood that broke off into different areas, into different clan systems, into different regions, or that it was, okay, we lived here, you lived there, you lived there, but we still would meet with one another. We still could have ceremonies together. We still could have trade together. And so there's always been that connection amongst the people. We had, there's something that we celebrate called June meeting. And there are stories how Shinnecock would have it the first weekend in what's now June. And then the second weekend would be the Unkataw people at Poospat. And then the third weekend would be the Montauk people would have a gathering. So different ones had these gatherings. And then the ones across the water, across the Sound, the Mohegans or Pequots and Narragansetts, the Wampanoags. We all celebrated this time of year, this June meeting, this coming together, which became a time from when Paul Cuffey, one of the ministers, he was a Shinnecock who was converted, had these gatherings, but it was still honoring those ancient ways of ours. It was still honoring that time of the moon, that time of the planting times, the time of the time when the berries were first starting to come up, or the leaves of those berries were coming. The time of the strawberries, the feast of the moon of the flowers. And those articles that had been written about how the altars, even if it was in a church, that altar would be covered with the evergreens. Well, we use these plants, we use these cedars, we use these different plants as a way to take care of our families, a way to make our homes smell a certain way, that sometimes we burn those, just like people today might burn incense. Well, we would burn the cedar. We would place down the tobacco. These things were done for reasons. And those old ways were passed down even into what was considered more modern days. So that just like every culture in the world evolves and changes and adapts or had to adapt or adopt other ways, we have done the same. But we still remember those, and we still try to have that as connections. So our connections with others continue. Those connections of other people coming to Shinnecock, or Shinnecock going to other places. Going to the Narragansett people, going to the Pequot people when they had their celebrations. And they might not be the celebrations that we all had of times past, but it's still remembering those times. It's still remembering those gatherings of the people. Remembering Montauk and Shinnecock's coming together. Montauk, Shinnecock's, Unkechauk's, Zolcott's, Hanarsi, Mataycock people all coming together. Because our gatherings were done seasonally. It may be done by the moons. They may be done by the planting times. They may be done by the times of the fish. When the fish were running, certain fish you would gather together. So, those are some of the connections that were had, that still had.
You mentioned that the numbers 4 and 70 were sacred. I was just curious if you could explain that a little. I mean, 4 I might get the seasons or the directions, but 7.
Exactly.
But the 7, I'm not like.
Well, with 7, we say that you have those directions, right? You have the 4 directions, right? You have the north, south, east, and west. Then you have the sky, you have the lands and the waters, and you have in here that 7th direction where Creator is. So within all of us, we feel that, Creator is within us, and that's those 7 directions.
You could mention the 4 days of cultivation. Were there specific burial rites or funeral rites that would happen during those 4 days?
Well, during that time, that's like after the person has passed, and that's where I was talking about the gathering, people coming together, having the feasting, preparing for the burial. Those were those times that happened. But it's also that during that time that person's spirit or that person's soul is getting ready to transition, to go on. Because from what we're taught from others is that it's just not, okay, you're dead. You're dead. And some people may believe that, and that's fine. But some people believe, that spirit still is, that soul is still lingering around us. And we have to, remember that and honor that person and let that person take their time to go through that transition, that journey. And that's only part of the journey, crossing over. Because then we're told about the journey that lasts almost a year. So that person can visit. That person may visit people in that spiritual way. So there are many things that people feel inside. Many things that some people, if you have let certain people who have that other connection to Creator, those medicine people, they will tell you things that they have seen. They may be able to go on the other side and see things. They can tell you about things. They can tell you about when new ones are born. If you're in ceremony, sometimes they will tell you. there's a child coming, but that child's connected to one who lived here a long time ago. Not just connected by that immediate blood, but has been there. And then those children sometimes, or people will see a child sometimes, whether it's infant or a child that's growing, and we'll say, that child's an old soul. You know, they know things. They have within them knowledge of things that not everyone has. And so these are things that I can't say everybody, I can only speak for myself, but these are the things, some things that I have experienced, and these are things that I believe in. And to me, that's how it is. It's that because I have seen certain things happen. I have been there as loved ones have transitioned. I have been there when babies have been born. Or have been told, the parents were told in ceremony that a certain one is coming. That she carried this name. That has carried the name of one who was here before. So these are things that are very real to us. And I think more people are starting to accept that there's not just one way in this world. You know, we are all humans. And we may have different physical backgrounds, different race, creed, religion, whatever you want to call. But I think most people believe in, not most people, I'm going to say a lot of people, because I know there are people who don't believe at all of a spiritual life, and there are atheists and all that don't believe in that. But from my teachings, that as humans, there is a spirit above us all that is trying to teach us to be good, to be a good person, as I said before. Living a good life, trying to be helpful, trying to be generous, even if you don't have anything. We were always told, put an extra plate on the table, because somebody may come in, and if all we have is bread and water, then that's what we can offer. But you always offer something. Where you leave that plate table, you give that plate for those that have gone on. You put that food down for those that have gone on. And that's something that you find, I'm not going to say is universal, but you find some of these ways with many different tribes of doing that, of putting that food down, putting that food out for someone. That belief in a higher power that connects us to those who have gone up. Yeah. Other questions?
Michael's in Richard Barber's book. I wanted to know, do you have a ritual that you do when the person is passing? Like burning incense or saying it all night or...
Yeah, I think that's what, I was saying, how we gather, and some people will burn, not, like I said, I can speak from my experiences, and it's not everyone's experience. Everyone Shinnecock, everyone Montauk, everyone has their own belief system and ways that they do things. But yes, sometimes we do burn certain plants that are sacred. We have plants that we consider are sacred plants. They are plants for cleansing. There are plants for bringing in, keeping negativity away. Or
You buy some for kickouts or not? Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's pretty general. You could probably look it up and find. You could probably Google it and find. But especially for us, though, the use of cedar is very important. Whether it's the white cedar or the red cedar is what we use, because that brings that good energy to us. But those are our ways, And I've been talking to schools and to groups for 50 years now. And one thing that I would tell others when they ask about, some of our ways, I said, your people have those ways also. Some people say, oh, we don't have a culture, we don't have certain things. No, you do. You just have to go back and see where your family's from. You go back and you find out where your family is from. Because even though the Industrial Revolution came along and changed so many things, but people have that knowledge. You might have that knowledge inside of you, just like I was talking about before, of feeling something. You might have a feeling about something, but you don't know exactly what to do with that, where that came from. Talk to elders if you have elders still in your families. Find their stories, where things written down in family books, family Bibles, family memories or diaries, that they remembered great-great-grandmother, foods that were done, foods that were cooked. Maybe there's something that somebody's great-great-grandma wrote down that they brought over from Europe, that this is a food that we prepared when so-and-so was dying, or after they died. This is the foods that we ate at that time. Or this was their favorite food. So those are some of the things. And there are plants. I know one plant that grows all over out here now, because it's an introduced plant, is mugwort. But I know Europeans would burn mugwort. And they would use that very much in the same way that we use sage or cedar for that burning, for keeping negativity away or keeping positivity around us, having that good smell around. When we smell certain things, sometimes someone who has passed on a long time ago now, but it was a medicine person that used to come to our home, and we had ceremonies with this person. He wasn't from Shunapa. But I will smell the tobacco, the red willow tobacco that man would smoke in his pipe, just out of the blue sometimes. That scent comes into my yard, or that scent comes into my house. And we haven't burned it, but that scent is there. And last year, his son had come and visited. And it's like, Joe, I knew. Your dad's with us. Your dad's right here with us. So, there are so many things. I wonder about the Sherpa Museum. Such a beautiful museum. Sorry, I hope it's not a sub-subject. This is a subject. It's a very sub-subject for me personally. But, as with other governments, with other organizations, with people, sometimes there are issues that happen that cause something to close down, that cause people to separate in what the original intent was. But we are working on changing that, and we're hoping that very soon we will be able to get our museum up and going again. I know that our leadership is working on getting the building back together,
And, so hopefully, Sarah, we will have this done again because it is a very beautiful, meaningful place. Yeah. And it's heartbreaking to many of us that she's been clueless for so long. So, like I said, we are like so many other people. We have those same problems. You have family problems, you have governmental problems, you have political problems. And that happens. You have ego problems and all those good things that every other community faces. We face also. But we still are connected in a way that in other people may not be connected as much, just from how life is and how people have moved and come. And so we're wearing in good thoughts and keep this in good thoughts that we will be opening again in the near future. Okay, and we will see you.
We have our final talk on May 24th. Chief Harry Wallace is coming to speak about Algonquin religious practices. So I hope you can join us then. Thank you.
Peter. Thank you.